My younger sister and I are the adopted daughters of the Sophia family. In my previous life, my younger sister married a billionaire, while I married the most notorious playboy in the Beijing social circle. After my younger sister married the billionaire, she learned that he had a first love. She was so jealous that she spread rumors everywhere, saying that the first love was the mistress. In the end, she was publicly broken off the engagement by the billionaire and became the laughingstock of everyone. Unable to bear the pressure, my younger sister jumped from the third floor, breaking her legs and becoming disabled. After I married the #1 playboy, I spent my days eating, drinking, and having fun, and my life was very carefree. The disabled younger sister was jealous of how wonderful my life was. While I was drunk, she pressed me into the bathtub and tried to drown me. I struggled desperately, and in the end, we both fell and died in the bathroom. When I opened my eyes again, I found myself back on the day I became an adult, when my adoptive parents were choosing husbands for us. This time, my younger sister chose the playboy first and said to me with a malicious smile, "Sister, you are so dignified and generous. You will definitely become William's first love." At this moment, I knew that she had also been reborn, but how did she know that William's first love was me? "Sister, William is a billionaire. Everyone who meets him feels inferior. You'll be the lucky one if you marry him." I frowned. I didn't want this so-called good fortune at all. You know, I had already rejected William's marriage proposals more than a dozen times. He was just a mama's boy and was really boring. I don't want to marry William. When I refused, my adoptive mother's impatient voice came. "Sophia, this marriage is something that others would beg for but can't get, and you're still being picky. If the Sophia family didn't adopt you, how could you have this chance?" I sensibly closed my mouth. It wasn't easy being an adopted daughter. Whenever my adoptive parents were a bit unhappy, my younger sister Luna and I would become the targets of their ventings. Getting beaten and scolded was the norm. In severe cases, we would be locked in a room for 3 days without water or food, wearing down our will and personality. So Luna became a people pleaser but also loved to compare herself with others, while I became as stubborn as a mule. I was the one who got beaten the most, locked up the longest, and was also the most disliked by my adoptive parents. Luna chose first, taking advantage of this. She knew that our adoptive parents would stand by her side. However, she made the wrong choice. She thought that the wife of the #1 playboy Julian would be free. In fact, Julian's family was already rotten to the core. They were regarded as a scholarly family on the outside, but they had a playboy son. In reality, there was a father who was addicted to gambling and women, a mother who had an affair, and a hen who was addicted to love and broken. On the first night of our wedding in the previous life, Julian slept with a man right in front of me. On the second day, it was a woman, and on the third day, it was a transgender person. I was forced to do a live broadcast and could only treat it as entertainment. Both parties were good looking, and it was free. Moreover, to make me keep quiet, Julian's family gave me a lot of money. Now, if I were really asked to change the marriage, I would actually be a bit reluctant. After all, where else could I find such a good thing where my husband didn't come home and I had money to spend? But now I didn't have a choice. Soon, my adoptive mother took the marriage certificates of Luna and me to calculate the wedding date. Luna looked at me triumphantly, as if a good life was already beckoning to her. She took my hand and carefully admonished me, "Sister, after you marry into William's family, you must be gentle, considerate and affectionate. You can't be as stubborn as you are at home." I looked at her and said, "Okay. I hope you will be happy after you marry into Julian's family." As long as Luna could tolerate her husband constantly cheating on her, a lecherous father-in-law who would come knocking on the door at night to harass her, and a mother-in-law who was constantly going crazy. As for the advantage, it was having money to spend. Well, why wasn't this a kind of alternative happiness? Soon, the wedding dates of Luna and me were set, and it was on the same day. Before that, my adoptive mother prepared an engagement banquet, aiming to let the two pairs of strangers get to know each other. Julian adapted quickly to the role of the fiancé and was holding Luna's arm and toasting everywhere at the banquet. As for William, the mama's boy, he was still angry with me and treated me coldly, because I had rejected his 18th marriage proposal the day before. So when Luna saw me that day, I was sitting in the corner, holding a glass of wine and being ignored. She walked up to me arm in arm with Julian and sneered at me with a smile. "Why are you sitting here alone, sister? Where's your fiancé?" I raised my eyebrows and didn't answer. "These people just like to step on you." The more you responded, the more excited they got. "Oh, I forgot to tell you, sister. It seems that your fiancé has someone he likes." I widened my eyes and asked, "You know about this?" "Damn it, didn't I tell William yesterday not to say that he liked me and that we should break off the engagement in the future?" Seeing how shocked I was, Luna was extremely happy. She triumphantly pulled out a girl from behind her. "See, Isabella. I told you that William must have confessed to my sister. You are his first love. If you hadn't gone abroad to study, how could he have gotten engaged to my sister? I saw them arguing in the corner yesterday. It must be because of you." The shy Isabella first pretended to look panicked at me and then took Luna's hand. "Luna, don't say that. Brother William is about to get engaged. We can't go against our parents' wishes. It's fine for me to just stay by his side like this." It was almost as if she had written the words, "I am the one William deeply loves," on her face. I was speechless. If William hadn't proposed to me yesterday, I might have believed their nonsense. Actually, have you ever thought that William's first love might be me? Upon hearing my answer, Luna burst out laughing, while Isabella looked a bit disdainful, but she hid it well. Luna was the first to speak. "Sister, Isabella was the first love that William chased for 3 years when he was in college, and he has been chasing her even after graduation. It is rumored that at the graduation party, William's confession failed, and after getting drunk, he kept calling the name of Shishiji." I tried to recall, and indeed, there was such a thing. That was the first time William proposed to me, but I had already fallen in love with someone else before that, so I rejected him. Isabella shyly accepted the envious glances from the people around her. I shook my head and chose to remain silent. You can never wake up someone who is pretending to be asleep. But they obviously didn't want to let me go so easily. While shouting that Isabella was William's first love, Luna also belittled me, attracting a lot of nosy people. I couldn't keep a low profile even if I wanted to. Many people surrounded me and commented on me. Some said that I looked plain and wasn't worthy of William, and some said that I was interfering in the relationship between him and Isabella. Isabella was explaining here and denying there. "No, William and I are just ordinary friends. I'm very happy that William is getting married." If the look on her face wasn't so downcast, I might really have believed that she would bless us. People who come with ill intentions are not kind. A woman who didn't even know her own position came to show off in front of the fiancé. William was just incompetent. After being nagged at for a long time, I couldn't help but roll my eyes and casually complain. "If you are William's first love, then I'm pregnant with William's child." As soon as I said that, there was silence all around. Everyone stared at my belly with their mouths open. What? Isabella wasn't William's first love either. I just blurted it out casually, but it was too late to explain. Such an explosive development could definitely become the highlight of the banquet. Soon, a large crowd surrounded me. Everyone was pointing at my belly. "It looks a bit flat. Did you just find out?" "I don't think so. Look, her lower abdomen is a bit bulging." "Nenda, I think she's still a virgin." Finally, there was someone who spoke fairly. I looked at the most sensible aunt at the whole scene with gratitude, but as soon as our eyes met, she quickly avoided my gaze and kept mumbling. "Oops, I was wrong. She must be pregnant. Look at how innocently she's looking at me." I really couldn't explain it now. Soon, the protagonist William came, and he was followed by William's mother. He quickly walked towards us, but the look in his eyes when he looked at me was filled with anger, as if I had betrayed his feelings. The people around stopped their discussion the moment he came and watched us with great interest. William grabbed my arm and said in a low voice, "I'll take responsibility for this child, Sophia. Do you know how much my heart hurts?" I pulled away William's hand and explained seriously. "William, are you out of your mind, rushing to be a stepfather? I said that if Isabella is your first love, then I could also have your child. Is she your first love?" What I got in return was William's long silence. Seeing that we had been whispering for a long time and still hadn't come to a conclusion, the people around kept urging William's mother to come over. But William's mother had long opposed the relationship between me and William. She liked Luna, who always agreed with her. When William's mother finally couldn't hold on and took a step towards us, William finally panicked. He whispered, "I don't like Isabella. I just mistook her for you before, and we were together." I could understand each of these 3 sentences, but when they were put together, I couldn't quite make sense of them. What did he mean by being together while mistaking her for me? "Come on, Sophia. Stop making a fuss. My mom is coming over." "Just right, you're pregnant, and I slept with her. We both made mistakes, so we're even. I still love you. This mama's boy really can't be married." I could see that William's mother was about to rush over. In a flash of inspiration, I slapped William hard across the face. "What did you say? You slept with Isabella?" "Everyone." Isabella looked flustered, but also had a hint of showing off. "Sophia, you've misunderstood. It's not William's fault." I turned to look at her and said, "You 2 slept together. If it's not his fault, then it must be yours, right?" Isabella was taken aback and quickly started waving her hands in a flustered manner, mumbling to herself. "No, no. William and I aren't like what you think." William didn't expect to be slapped and was still in a daze. As soon as William's mother saw her precious son being hit, she immediately rushed over. "My dear William, Sophia. Even if you're pregnant with a child from the William family, you still don't think you can enter the door of my William family. You're just a shrew. Hitting my William is like hitting me." Seeing how resolute William's mother was, I couldn't control my urge to follow up on my advantage. I slapped William again. William covered his face and looked at me in disbelief. He couldn't figure out that if the first slap was because I was angry about him sleeping with Isabella, then what was the second slap for? Could it be because his mother said I wasn't allowed to enter their family? In the blink of an eye, he grabbed his mother's hand, which was itching to do something. "Mom, I'm sorry to Sophia. She's carrying a child too. Get out of the way. I originally wanted to save you some face. Don't I know whether you've had sex or not? What child? Are you going to be a stepfather willingly? You were tricked by Isabella and slept with her, and I let it go. But who the hell is she, Sophia? She wants to enter the William family with a bastard in her belly." William's mother was so angry that she was ranting non-stop, lashing out mercilessly. Isabella was getting more and more proficient at waving her hands, and there were tears on her face. "Mrs. William, it's not like that. I'm not like that. You've misunderstood me. Everyone, listen to my explanation." Everyone present was no fool and immediately grasped the key point. They looked at Isabella with mockery and at me with admiration. After all, one was a woman whom William had slept with but didn't want to marry, and the other was a woman with a child, for whom William was eager to be a stepfather. Under the gaze of everyone, I somehow stuck out my belly, as if I had found the door to a new world. William's mother rushed over to hit me, but William held her back. Mom, I really love Sophia. Please let us be together. We both just made a small mistake. If you don't like the child, we can get rid of it, okay?" William's mother was disappointed in her son's behavior and wishing he could be better, but before she could open her mouth to refuse, I spoke first. "I don't agree. I want to keep this child." What a joke. Only someone with a screw loose would want to marry into this crazy family. William's mother was the only one with a bit of sense, but it must be the pain of losing her husband at an early age that made her have an extreme possessive desire for William. William looked at me with a betrayed expression again, but he still held his mother back to prevent her from getting close. I silently counted down in my heart. 321. William's mother angrily roared. If you marry her, then sever the mother-son relationship with me. This sentence directly hit William's weak point. He looked at his mother helplessly, then turned to look at me with reluctance. Finally, it turned into a sentence. Sophia, are you willing to wait for me? I coldly refused. No, the child in my belly can't wait. William looked at my belly with a bit of jealousy, but his mother didn't give him any chance to hesitate. She shook off his hand and turned to leave. William chased after her, shouting for his mother. After getting rid of this strange mother and son, everyone looked at me with amazed eyes. To be honest, this social circle was really sick. Clearly, it was something unreasonable, but they thought it was a sign of being resourceful. Isabella was standing there waving her hands, and no one paid attention to her. Mantua young ladies from families of lower status came up to me to show off, all flattering me and wanting to learn the skill of getting someone to be a stepfather willingly when pregnant. Before I could even start enjoying the feeling of being praised, I was interrupted by a scolding. Sophia, are you out of your mind? Luna pulled our adoptive mother and looked at me triumphantly. Other members of the Sophia family also came along. All the people from the Sophia family looked at me as if I were something dirty. The crowd quickly dispersed, and I was left sitting alone in the corner looking a bit helpless. Luna shouted loudly. Mom, don't blame sister. Sister is innocent too. Innocent? Did someone force her to sleep with a man and get pregnant with a bastard? She's willing to degrade herself and has shamed our Sophia family. If it weren't for... I interrupted my adoptive mother's words. Or you can just kick me out of the Sophia family. My adoptive mother gave me a fierce glare. You're just daydreaming. If you can't marry into the William family, you'll marry into another family. Don't think I'll let you off so easily. Even if you're rotten, you'll rot to death in the Sophia family. I hid the sharpness in my eyes and surveyed everyone in the Sophia family. My adoptive mother especially hated this look in my eyes. She thought I was just a dog raised by the Sophia family, and a dog shouldn't look its master in the eye. She took 3 steps at a time and reached out her hand to slap me in the face. I stood there, just waiting for my adoptive mother to vent her anger, and then I would reject this marriage. Just as my adoptive mother's slap was about to land on my face, a slender hand stopped her. Sophia, it's not very nice to bully a pregnant woman like this, is it? It was a familiar male voice and a familiar smell. I instinctively looked up, and sure enough, it was him. Henry, William's little uncle. In my previous life, he had saved me from trouble many times. The reason was that he believed in Buddhism and couldn't stand the actions of Julian's family. He often spoiled their good deeds. In the previous life, he had almost beaten his nephew William, half to death because of a string of Buddhist beads. In the end, it was only when William's mother threatened to commit suicide that he put down the stick and became a devout Buddhist. But the feud between the uncle and nephew was established. After that, every time Henry saw William, he would beat him. So in this social circle, as long as one of the uncle and nephew was invited, the other basically wouldn't show up. Coincidentally, I knew where the bead was. While Henry was on his deathbed, I whispered, "Help me, and I'll tell you where that string of Buddhist beads is." Henry immediately turned around, and the originally clear and innocent look in his eyes instantly became cloudy. "Where is the thing?" I looked into his eyes and felt a bit scared. His eyes were like those of a jackal or a tiger, as if I were a prey he had targeted. I swallowed my saliva and decided to go all out. Help me escape from the Sophia family, and I'll tell you. The people of the Sophia family looked at me and Henry being intimate, as if they had seen something earth-shattering. You know, Henry was a business genius in the William family, but he had no interest in women or power and insisted on guarding the Buddhist hall. Over the years, William's grandfather had tried everything but failed to make him break his vows, let alone bow his head and whisper to a woman. "The thing is very important to me. If you dare to lie to me." Henry didn't finish his words, but I could see the danger in his eyes. However, I wasn't afraid of his threat. First, I really did know where the bead was. Second, I had already died once, and my wish in this life was to get away from the Sophia family. Henry put his arm around my waist, but there was no smile in his eyes. When Sophia's mother saw Henry's action, the wrinkles on her face stretched out with a smile. As long as Henry was willing to get married, what business would William have in the William group? As for me, an adopted daughter of the Sophia family, it didn't matter who I married. This child isn't William's. It's mine. Me, everyone? I turned my head and frantically winked at Henry from an angle where others couldn't see, but all I got in return was Henry's indifference. What? Did everyone in the William family have the habit of being eager to be a stepfather? Where could I get a child from? After my adoptive mother left satisfied, only Henry and I were left in the corner. Henry found a place and casually lay down, then picked up a goblet and took a sip. Come on, tell me where the thing is. His voice carried a bit of danger, making me scared, but I still summoned up the courage to say, I've seen the Buddhist beads. There are exactly 94 of them. The most eye-catching ones are the 3 oxblood red coral beads among them. Henry's hand holding the goblet tightened slightly, and I could faintly see the veins popping out on his slender hand. It seemed that the rumors were true. The beads were left to Henry by his deceased first love. He had worn them on his chest all year round. At a banquet, he had to take them off for some reason and then put the beads in his room. However, they were taken away by the playful William and later lost. Almost the entire Beijing social circle had been turned upside down, but the beads still couldn't be found. In fact, I didn't know about this in my previous life until I saw a string of Buddhist beads hidden in the nightstand of that pervert Julian's room, as well as his expression every time he saw Henry and that suppressed and perverted look in his eyes. There was no doubt that the Buddhist beads should still be with Julian at this moment. Henry, with the charm of a billionaire, even made men unable to resist his allure. You'd better not be lying to me. You know very well that it's not that easy to break away from the Sophia family. I want to see the beads in 10 days, and then you'll have nothing to do with the Sophia family. Henry gave me a cold glance, then drank the wine in one gulp and walked away slowly. After his figure completely disappeared, I finally let out a sigh of relief. But the Buddhist beads were with that pervert Julian. How could I get them? At this moment, I could only think of one breakthrough, and that was Luna. When I got back to the Sophia family, no matter what I said, Luna always had an unpleasant expression. I had no choice but to use my trump card. Don't you want to know how I hooked up with Henry? Luna finally reacted. Sophia, why you? Why can you always get a good marriage, while I have to take what's left for me? In what way am I worse than you? Luna had lived to lifetimes but still didn't understand what kind of woman men liked. A gentle woman like Luna, who was as gentle as a spring breeze, was not the type that men truly loved. This kind of woman was suitable to be a wife, but not the first love in their hearts. I had to reorganize my words and said seriously, You're not worse. It's Julian who's not good enough. He's your fiend. It's him who can't compare with Henry. Why are you reflecting on yourself? Luna was stunned for a moment, and then she seemed to suddenly have an epiphany. Sister, you're right. Why should I torture myself? It's the man who's not trying hard enough. How could I be worse than you? I nodded quickly in agreement, wishing I could jump up and clap my hands. Yes, you're not worse than me. But Julian is hiding something from you. Luna widened her eyes, looking hurt. Why is he hiding it from me? I don't even mind that he can't compare with Henry. I looked into Luna's eyes sincerely and said, Do you want to get to know the real Julian? Luna was bewitched by my words and instinctively wanted to agree, but then she thought of something and coldly refused me. Sophia, what bad idea are you up to again? I won't fall for it. Well, I had to admit that after being reborn, Luna had grown a bit smarter. I'll tell you that Julian has someone he likes. To remember that person, he hides something in the nightstand in his bedroom. Why do you know so clearly? Could it be that you've been to Julian's room? Luna shrieked and rushed towards me, as if she wanted to tear my face apart. I reached out and slapped her across the face. Luna was stunned. You know, in both the previous life and this life, I had never laid a finger on her because we were in the same situation, and she wasn't very smart. I usually didn't bother arguing with her. You actually hit me, Luna said, covering her face. Have you calmed down? Luna nodded and instinctively distanced herself from me. Of course, Henry told me. He said it was a string of Buddhist beads and they were of great collection value. I'm not going to marry into the William family, so I want to get that and give it to him. Luna still looked at me with suspicion. Why should I help you? I blinked and looked indifferent. If you don't help me, I'll go and get it myself. You know that Julian is a playboy and he never refuses anyone. Luna seemed to think of her miserable previous life again. She definitely wouldn't let Julian go to me in this life. No, you're not allowed to go. I'll go and get it for you. After saying that, Luna left in a hurry. I stood there looking at her departing back, silently calculating what other ways there were to get the thing. I definitely had to make 2 sets of preparations. It had to be foolproof. Before I could find someone to help me get the thing, Luna called and told me that she had succeeded and asked me to go to the abandoned sunroom of the Sophia family to get it, saying that there were few people there. I had a premonition that something was amiss in my heart, but in order to obtain the Buddhist beads, I had no choice but to attend this feast with malicious intent. Moreover, according to Henry's character, he shouldn't let me get into danger just to find his Buddhist beads. When it got dark, I quietly went to the sunroom of the Sophia family. Sure enough, Luna was sitting in the middle, looking around as if she was waiting for something. It was only when I appeared in her sight that her expression visibly relaxed. Where's the thing? I stood at the door and asked. Luna waved to me. Come and see. Is this it? Luna held up the thing in her hand. Under the moonlight, a string of white jade-like Buddhist beads glistened, and 3 blood-colored coral beads among them were shining with a red light. Just as I was about to walk over, I was firmly grabbed by a pair of big hands and couldn't break free at all. A man's voice came to my ears. Sister, I've been waiting for you for a long time. The voice was very familiar. It was clearly the voice of that pervert Julian. You tricked me. I looked at Luna and shouted. Sister, are you kidding me? Why would I help you steal my husband's things? Julian took out a rope and tied me up. Then the 2 of them snuggled up to each other, looking very well matched. Seeing that I wasn't as flustered and scared as he had imagined, a hint of obscurity flashed in Julian's eyes. He slowly walked up to me and grabbed my chin. Don't you want to know what I'll do to you next? I was forced to look into Julian's eyes. Just thinking that these hands of his had touched who knew how many people's bodies made me feel physically nauseous. I don't want to know. But after you do what you want to do, will you give me the Buddhist beads? The words Buddhist beads seemed to touch Julian's sore spot. He bit his lower lip and tried hard to suppress his anger. Buddhist beads, just because of your dirty hands, you still want to touch them. However, even if I can't get the owner of the Buddhist beads in this life, it should be the same for me to taste you. Julian looked at me with a bit of fanaticism in his eyes. With just one sentence, I knew what was on his mind. He just thought that Henry had slept with me, and if he slept with me, it would be like indirectly sleeping with Henry. Julian's perversion had once again lowered my bottom line. As he spoke, he reached out his hand towards my collar. But seeing that I was still calm and composed, an obvious look of impatience appeared on his face. For a pervert, there was nothing more frustrating than having the prey in his hands not being afraid. Just as he was about to tear my clothes apart, the glass of the sunroom shattered with a crash. Pieces of glass rained down on us. I instinctively lowered my head to protect myself, and Julian had already run a long way. At the moment I lowered my head, a stylish coat covered me. It was filled with a cold fragrance, which was very familiar and made people feel at ease. There was no doubt that this coat belonged to Henry. Then can I touch it? A cold male voice sounded. At the same time, Julian also asked in a panic. You Henry, why are you here? My head was covered by the coat, and my hands were tied up, so I couldn't see this explosive scene at all. I was really curious. Julian called so intimately. I wonder what expression Henry had. Taking back my things. And my person? Henry said with some hesitation. I didn't know what about this sentence had stimulated Julian again. He was clearly panting heavily. So you're sure you've touched Sophia, right? The two of them kept arguing and brought the topic back to me again. I twisted my body uncomfortably and finally got rid of the restraint of the coat and saw the scene clearly. Luna had already run away. Opposite us was only Julian. Henry stood next to me, looking tall and elegant. In the moonlight, I could only see his perfect profile, which made my heart skip a beat. Julian's continuous questioning made Henry a bit impatient. He reached out and picked me up, rope and coat included, with one hand. He was so manly. If he hadn't picked me up like a chick, he would probably have looked even more handsome in my eyes. Just like this, Henry carried me, holding the Buddhist beads in one hand, and left under the moonlight. Behind us, Julian was still asking questions non-stop. Henry, why are you ignoring me? Henry, look back at me. Henry, I've prepared a big gift for you. After we left the sunroom, Henry finally couldn't stand it anymore and said coldly to the side. He's too noisy. Make him shut up. Then I watched as a man in black emerged from the shadows. Yes, young master. It really opened my eyes. What perverts and young masters from wealthy families were nothing compared to this. Who could be as handsome as Henry? Just like that, Henry carried me all the way. We didn't encounter a single person until we reached the gate of the Sophia family's house. It was only when he saw a black SUV that Henry seemed to remember that he was carrying someone. He leaned me against the streetlewide and then said, "You have the nerve to threaten me, but you don't have the sense to see through their trap." I pretended to be infatuated and giggled foolishly. Henry was a bit impatient. "Stop acting so stupid. Pretending like this in front of me just makes me think you're boring. I sense you already know, why are you still asking me?" Seeing that I didn't say anything, Henry suddenly stopped asking. He picked me up and threw me into the car. Then he got into the driver's seat and drove at full speed. Through the rearview mirror in the car, I could see his fair face turning redder and redder, and the car was going faster and faster. Just when I thought he was going to drive the SUV like an airplane, a man's rippling and suppressed groan came from the car. "Me? So he wasn't addicted to speeding?" I tentatively said. "William, why don't you drop me off on the side of the road?" What I got in return was Henry's groan. At this moment, I already guessed what the big gift Julian had mentioned was. This guy really knew how to play. After a long time, Henry gasped and said, "Julian ampered with the Buddhist beads. I was drugged." "Oh, okay. Then can you let me out of the car? I can walk back by myself." Henry suddenly stepped on the brake and turned around, looking at me with red eyes. "Sophia, do you have any conscience at all?" "No, I don't have a conscience. I only have a red heart for my country." As I spoke, I skillfully untied the rope on my hands. I had already mastered this skill in my previous life. I was forced to learn it by Julian. That pervert liked to tie people up. Every time he was in a bad mood, he would go home and tie me up and not give me food. Later, I mastered the technique of untying ropes to save myself. This was also the reason why I wasn't afraid at all just now. Even if Henry hadn't come, I would have found a way to take down that good-for-nothing Julian and the weak Luna. Seeing that I hadn't tied the rope myself, how could Henry not understand what I meant? He pressed the unlock button, and I opened the car door and left without looking back. Walking in the forest, I kept walking along the road. But not only couldn't I see a car, I didn't even see a single bird. Where on earth had Henry driven me to with just one step on the gas pedal? I had no choice but to walk back. But when I reached the front of the car window, there was already chaos in the car. Well, I really was to blame. At this time, Henry had completely lost his mind. His face was flushed, his mouth was slightly open, and there was a scene that couldn't be described. I knew Julian best. This drug was most likely a powerful one. He knew Henry well and knew that once the Buddhist beads were exposed, he definitely couldn't keep them. So he set such a trap. I knocked on the car window. The man looked at me with blurred eyes. Where was the cold and aloof Buddhist disciple look he usually had? Damn it, I'm getting lustful. Go away. The man in the car growled. Then Henry somehow took out a sharp pen and pointed it at his own thigh. I was overcome with lust. No, I couldn't bear to see it, so I opened the car door and pressed the pen down. If this pen stabbed in, his slender and straight long legs would definitely leave a scar. I don't allow there to be any flaws in these perfect long legs of yours, I said with a look of righteousness. Henry? Then he grabbed me and pressed me against the steering wheel. Do you know what the consequences of opening the car door are? Me? I composed myself and looked at the male beauty that the entire Beijing social circle had coveted for a long time. I couldn't help but swallow my saliva. Rather than being slept with by other men, I might as well sleep with Henry first. So I just did it. Damn it, this man is like a dog. He bit me. Damn it, isn't this man supposed to be a cold and aloof Buddhist disciple? Why is he so crazy? Damn it. Damn it. Damn it. Finally, as night fell, Henry and I fell into a deep sleep. When the first ray of sunlight in the morning shone on my eyelids, I opened my eyes with great effort. What I saw was the high ceiling and the soft big bed under me. Damn it, this couldn't be heaven, could it? But soon the man's voice shattered my thoughts. Are you awake? Henry was wearing a white bathrobe and sitting right opposite the bed. It was obvious that he had been sitting there for a long time, because he was holding that string of Buddhist beads in his hand, and there was also a wooden fish in front of him. He was clearly chanting scriptures. A strange feeling welled up in my heart. This didn't seem like he was waiting for me to wake up. It seemed more like he was performing a religious service for the dead. Bah, that's not auspicious. I rubbed my sore waist and sat up from the bed. Well, you saved me, and I saved you. We're even, right? I hid the fact that I had been overcome with lust. Henry frowned. Sensing his impatience, I added another sentence. Or do you want me to do something else? Henry put the Buddhist beads down heavily, turned his body around, and said in a muffled voice. No need. I've already dealt with the matters of the Sophia family. You can leave if you want. Okay. Thank you. After saying that, I just. There were no clothes here. Was I supposed to leave wearing just a bathrobe? Holding the quilt, I sat on the bed and said weakly. William, the clothes. The clothes are in the wardrobe. I sneaked over to the wardrobe that was about 20 meters away from me and opened it. Inside were all women's clothes, so many that it was dazzling. This. Could it be that there had been a woman living here before? At this moment, I remembered the previous rumor about Henry's first love. But when I picked up a piece of clothing and tried it on, I found that these clothes fit my figure perfectly, as if they had been tailor-made for me. After changing my clothes, I turned my head and glanced at Henry. I found that he was still sitting on the futon with his back to me. Thinking of his broad and powerful shoulders in the car yesterday, I couldn't help but swallow my saliva. Forget it, I can't look anymore. This man is not a Buddhist disciple at all. He's a male goblin who can enchant people's hearts. Even after I left Henry's house, I was still in a state of shock. I had also been to William's villa, but it couldn't be compared with Henry's at all. Henry's place was clearly a manor, and it was the kind with mountains and water. It was incredibly large, and they even drove to send me out. It was only when the security guard sent me to the gate that I came back to my senses. I stood on the asphalt road in a daze, as if I had gone back to the state of not being able to find my way or get a taxi yesterday. What? This place is even more remote than the suburbs. How am I supposed to get back? But soon I knew how I was going to get back. Henry drove the same car as yesterday and stopped in front of me. Get in the car. Thinking of yesterday's madness, I was a bit afraid to look directly at this car. There should be traces of us all over this car, right? Help. How could Henry sit on it with a straight face? Could it be that he didn't remember? I suddenly thought that some people who had taken that particularly powerful drug would lose their memory. Thinking of his coldness in the morning and his calmness now, I became more and more convinced of this speculation. So I tentatively sat in the same position that had been so crazy yesterday. Sure enough, Henry turned his head without changing his expression. I blinked. It seemed that I was the only one who knew about the madness last night. I reached out my hand towards him. There was a mole on his ear. I had carefully traced it with my lips when we were in the heat of passion yesterday. Just as I was about to touch it, the car suddenly stopped. Henry looked at me with an unreadable expression. Do you want to do it again? Me? What do you mean by doing it again? His gaze was very aggressive. He sized me up from head to toe, then turned his head back, drove with one hand, and twirled the Buddhist beads with the other hand, muttering something under his breath. My gaze lingered on his slender and well-defined fingers. This hand had touched every corner of my body yesterday. No, I quickly shook my head to get rid of the strange images in my mind. It was a long time before Henry stopped the car. What came into view was a small courtyard near the suburbs. You have nothing to do with the Sophia family anymore. This is my idle property. You can live here. I hesitated. After all, we had had a one-night stand. If I lived in a property under Henry's name, what would I be? His mistress? I shook my head and refused. Thank you, Henry. Why don't you take me to Victoria's house? Victoria will definitely be willing to take me in. Upon hearing my refusal, Henry's hand gripping the steering wheel tightened. Don't you know that Victoria's brother, Lucas, likes you? Huh? I was a bit surprised. You know, Victoria and I had a life-and-death friendship. Her brother and I often went out to play together. When it came to liking someone, I would never have thought of that. Just live here. Move out when you have a place of your own. Henry made the final decision. After I got out of the car, he threw the car keys to me. You can use the car too. Don't ride with other men. There was a hint of threat in Henry's voice. I nodded stupidly, surprised by his thoughtfulness. It was said that Henry, the Buddhist disciple in the Beijing social circle, was cold and heartless. Once, a girl tried to chase him and even slit her wrists in front of him, but he remained unmoved and even said that if she wanted to die, she should do it farther away. He seemed to be overly enthusiastic towards me. I turned to look at him again. This time, he didn't avoid my gaze and let me size him up. Then he took long strides with his slender legs and opened the gate. Unlike the previous villa, this small courtyard was surprisingly warm and cozy. There was even a vegetable plot in the corner, and the plants were growing very well, as if someone had been taking care of them regularly. It was full of the breath of life everywhere. After Henry gave me the keys and other things, he went into the garage, drove another car, and left. As soon as he was completely out of sight, I immediately drove to Victoria's house. After all, there was no information that Victoria couldn't dig up. As soon as she saw me, Victoria pulled me into her room mysteriously. Sophia, you're really quick at taking action. How did you manage to win over Henry? She smiled brightly. I looked up at the sky and tried hard to recall. It should have been in the car yesterday? But I definitely couldn't tell Victoria this. With her gossipy personality, she would definitely spread it. What if Henry came to me with trouble then? No, I just helped him find something. Victoria looked skeptical. Don't try to fool me. Henry exposed the conspiracy of the Sophia family when they adopted daughters. Before you and your sister, they had adopted 10 other girls and sent them all to other people's beds. The oldest one was even 80 years old. I was silent for a while. Indeed, as Victoria said, those girls who grew up with me were all used to exchange for resources. My sister Luna and I were the most outstanding, so we were kept by the Sophia family to marry into the William family and the Julian family. It wasn't that I didn't want to expose the dark secrets of the Sophia family, but their interests were linked to other families. I simply had no way to fight against the capital, and I might even be dealt with if I wasn't careful. Your adoptive mother tried desperately to shift the blame, but unfortunately, she couldn't. However, your sister has been speaking up for her. This didn't surprise me. Luna was an egoist. The downfall of the Sophia family would have the greatest impact on her. By speaking up for them at this time, she could also build a good image. What about the Julian family? I asked instinctively. It's off. But Luna used the marriage to get into Xinu Entertainment and hooked up with William. This was quite interesting. Didn't William say that he would only marry me? Why was he with Luna now? I tugged at Victoria's arm and asked in a low voice. Now that I've escaped from the Sophia family, I'm short of money. Do you have any ways to make money quickly? Get into the entertainment industry. Look, Luna has already joined. Then help me. Victoria was indeed my good best friend. She immediately arranged for me to join her family's company. Then I debuted as a trainee. While I was practicing singing, dancing, and rapping, Luna had already become a new rising star in the entertainment industry. She publicly criticized me, saying that I had abandoned the Sophia family that raised me and now lived in a way that she hated the most. A flood of abuse came towards me. I was cyberbullied and forced to withdraw from the competition even before I officially debuted. In the end, I could only turn to acting. But no matter what I did, Luna would follow me. Her fans said that I was her unknown and unremarkable follower. Just like this, 3 months passed. I gave up on my acting career, but I was hit by a piece of news about a high-paying job offer. Victoria said that she had a friend who was hiring a high-level masked banquet dance partner with a payment of 100,000 yuan for one night. I immediately took the job. But when I arrived at the designated location of the banquet, I was stunned. The figure sitting in the corner was very familiar to me. With broad shoulders, a narrow waist, and long legs, if it wasn't Henry, I would do a headstand and wash my hair live. I cautiously moved closer. Henry? A deep and magnetic voice came from under the man's mask. Yeah. Remember to steal the limelight from the ones wearing the red masks later. Henry didn't seem surprised by my arrival at all. I silently stared at the man and woman wearing the red masks and had already guessed their identities. Aren't you not competing with your great-nephew for the family assets? That little bit of stuff isn't worth my attention. But I'm in a bad mood now and don't want to give it to him. The huge William group seemed like a toy in Henry's mouth. Other than silently complaining that the rich were just so capricious, what else could I do? Soon, the banquet started. Wearing the red masks, the two of them became the center of attention. They walked into the dance floor with arrogant and indifferent steps. Henry also stood up and invited me like a gentleman. The silver-white mask looked mysterious and noble under the light. People around were silently guessing who this was that came to disrupt the event. After the dance ended, William and Luna were a bit furious, but they quickly adjusted their moods and walked to the center of the stage. I invited everyone to this masquerade ball today for a reason. I was engaged to Sophia before, but it wasn't my wish. Now I've met my true love, Luna, so I've changed my fiancé to her. William was very affectionate, and then he took off his mask and proposed to Luna. Luna under the mask was crying uncontrollably. Just when everyone thought that the heirloom ring of the William family was going to be put on Luna's hand, Henry beside me spoke up. I don't agree. Everyone looked towards us and then quickly backed away, wanting to distance themselves from us. After all, no one wanted to offend the William family. Henry had taken off his mask at some point. Then he took my hand and walked through the crowd towards the stage. Uncle. William was a bit scared and even forgot to put the ring on Luna. It seemed that the mama's boy still hadn't forgotten being severely beaten by Henry. Henry, as an uncle, aren't you overstepping by interfering in their nephew's marriage? Luna shouted hoarsely. Because of Henry, she had already lost the protection of the Sophia family. Now he was also objecting to her marrying into the William family. Why was he always in her way? Uncle, Luna and I are truly in love. William had an infatuated look, very similar to the expression he had when he proposed to me a few days ago. I felt a bit nauseous. I knew that the love of a mama's boy was as cheap as grass. She doesn't agree either. I was originally feeling relieved that I was wearing a mask and no one was paying attention to me, but Henry took off my mask, and I became the focus of the whole audience. After all, everyone knew that it was me who was engaged to William before. This I tugged at Henry's sleeve and said in a low voice, "Henry, this requires additional payment." Henry smiled with his lips curled and replied, "You can name your price." With his guarantee, not only didn't I mind that my mask was taken off, but I would even be willing to throw a tantrum on the stage. So I shouted loudly, "Yes, I don't agree." God knew that I was already clapping wildly in my heart. A mama's boy and a scheming woman were a perfect match. People around immediately started guessing why Henry was supporting me, and the atmosphere reached its peak. William looked at me with a pained and reluctant expression. "Sophia, stop making a scene. You have someone else's child, and I'm no longer clean. We have no fate in this life. In the next life, I will definitely leave my purest self for you, and you should do the same as me." It was so disgusting. I could hardly hold it in. I didn't know if it was because the perfume around was too strong or if William's words were so nauseating, but I finally couldn't help but vomit. Henry beside me had been paying attention to me all the time. When he saw me vomiting, he immediately took out a handkerchief and wiped it clean for me. Then he picked me up in his arms like a princess. "Why didn't you tell me earlier that you weren't feeling well?" "Me? So what if I'm not feeling well? What does it have to do with him, Henry?" Henry looked at me with an expression of being disappointed in my lack of progress and wishing for improvement, and finally let out a sigh. "My wife isn't feeling well. Clear the place." "Wait, wife?" I was stunned, and everyone around was also stunned. Luna let out a scream that made her lose her voice. "Why? Why her? She's even pregnant with someone else's bastard, and she still has someone who wants her even though she's having morning sickness, and it's Henry." Luna fell into a frenzy. I was about to refute that I wasn't pregnant, but I suddenly remembered that my period hadn't come for a long time, and I hadn't been eating well recently. I had always thought that I was just tired from being a trainee. Throw her out too. "William, think carefully about whether you want your career or your woman. If you marry her, you can forget about the William family." Despite the dissuasion of the security guards at the scene, Luna insisted on rushing towards me. Sister, say something. I'm your sister." Seeing that I ignored her, she started going crazy again. "Who is Henry? Who are you? Why do you stop me from marrying into the William family? William, you're a useless person, useless." When William saw that Henry was angry, he remained in a half-kneeling position for the proposal and trembled with fear. After everyone left, Henry carried me and walked up to William. "Take back what you said before." "William?" He immediately put down the ring and raised his hand to swear. "I, William, will never marry Luna in this life." That's not the sentence. Rejected by Henry, it took William a long time to look at me and suddenly have an epiphany. "I, William, am unworthy of Sophia in this life, and the next life." "Me?" Henry left with me in his arms, satisfied. I was still in a trance until I left the banquet hall as if I had just had a dream. I pressed Henry's hand and said guiltily, "Henry, I don't want the money anymore. Just let me go." Henry looked at me with an aggressive gaze. "You still want to run away? Sophia, if you hadn't come back that day, I would have pretended that nothing had happened. But you did come back and you provoked me. You can only stay by my side for the rest of your life." What about your first love related to the Buddhist beads?" "That was a relic left by my mother. There's no such thing as a first love. I've been practicing Buddhism since I was a child." After saying that, Henry lowered his head and covered my mouth, not allowing me to speak anymore. Later, I found out that I was really pregnant, and I was carrying Henry's baby. Henry had actually known me in the Buddhist hall a long time ago. He also broke his vow of celibacy because of me. In the previous generation, he regarded me as nothing more than a seductive woman, but he couldn't help saving me time and time again. In this life, since I provoked him, he just clung to me. In my previous life, due to my mother's strong opposition, I resolutely divorced my husband. I left most of the property I got from the divorce to my mother, but she deposited it all under my younger brother's name. When my younger brother had kidney failure, they asked the doctor to remove one of my kidneys and give it to him. I had a massive hemorrhage during the surgery and was lying half dead in a private hospital, but my mother refused to spend money on a blood transfusion for me. They watched me die right in front of them. My 6-year-old daughter was also driven out of the house by them and finally froze to death in the cold winter. Yet they were living happily together in the house I bought. The person who collected the remains of my daughter and me was actually my ex-husband. This time, I must live for myself and for my daughter. I was reborn in the year when I was 30 years old. As soon as I got out of bed, I smelled the aroma of the food. When I came to the kitchen, my husband had already served the food and was waiting for me to eat. "Uma, go wash your hands and have a meal," he looked at me and my daughter affectionately. But I had no appetite to eat, because I knew that today was exactly the day when I dragged him to go through the divorce formalities. Unexpectedly, even so, he still treated me so well. When he saw that I wasn't eating, he put a large piece of meat in my bowl. "Eat. As for the divorce, it's up to you. Anyway, I'm still your husband, Emma. That won't change." I moved my throat. "Husband, we're not getting a divorce anymore." He looked at me in surprise. In fact, our relationship had always been quite good. It was just that my mother disliked the fact that his family ran a grocery store and thought they didn't have much money. She always wanted to find a rich old man for me, so she even threatened me with suicide to make me divorce. "Does your mother agree?" he asked. I smiled and shook my head. "Don't worry about her. If she wants to die, let her die." At the end of that meal, my mother came in with my younger brother and sister-in-law. My sister-in-law looked around my house and said brazenly, "This house is about right for a bridal chamber." She had just married my younger brother, but my younger brother was idle and never went to work. He had been living on my financial support all the time. He had never been able to afford a house, so this time they came to ask for my house. In my previous life, after I divorced my husband, in order to keep peace in their family, I still transferred the house to my younger brother's name. In the end, they even drove me out. I sneered a few times. Looking at my nephew who was clamoring for snacks beside me, I directly stuffed a large piece of lemon into his mouth. He immediately burst into tears from the sour taste. My sister-in-law finally looked at me, but with a fierce glare, and she quickly coaxed her son. I sat upright on the sofa. "This house was bought by my husband and me. It's impossible to give it to you as a bridal chamber. It's your family's business that your husband is useless. You have a poor eye for people and now you're trying to covet other people's property." My sister-in-law was rebuked by me and quickly pulled my younger brother over. My younger brother then pulled my mother and started to blame me. My mother said, "Ma, after all, you're just a girl. You can leave this house to me for safekeeping. I promise you'll have a room to live in. Is that okay? Your younger brother and his family are waiting for a house to get married." I stirred the coffee in the cup and handed it to my husband to drink. "Mom, what's wrong with being a girl? Am I not part of this family? My husband has a share in this house. You have the nerve to ask for it, but I don't have the nerve to give it. Didn't my younger brother get married a long time ago? People who really want to live a good life don't act so high and mighty and rely on others' houses to live. Without a house, can they even get a divorce?" This remark really hit my sister-in-law's sore spot. I knew that she had been deceived by the BMW car that my younger brother rented. She thought she had married a boss, but it was only after everything was settled that she realized he was a good-for-nothing. She had long wanted to get a divorce, but it was inconvenient because she had a child. My sister-in-law raised her eyebrows, put her hands on her hips, grabbed my younger brother's ear, and said in a roundabout way, "Did you hear that? Your sister thinks you're useless and can't afford a house. You even brought a carton of milk to see her, but it's like offering charity to a dog. After all these years, she's only given birth to a daughter. She's not ambitious herself and can't stand to see others do well. That's exactly the kind of person she is, right?" I looked at the carton of pure milk she brought, which was covered in dust. I wondered if it was almost expired and bought from some grocery store. My younger brother's ear hurt so much from being pulled that he shook off her hand and turned to lecture me. I said, "Sister, why are you so heartless? Our whole family is crowded in a rented house, and you're just fine with that. Mom is also living with me. Look at the bracelet on your hand. It must cost more than 10,000 yuan, right?" My mother also chimed in, "That's right. We're all family. If a girl is so stingy, she won't get any good results." I shook the gold bracelet on my hand at my sister-in-law. "It's not more than 10,000 yuan. It's more than 30,000 yuan. My husband bought it for me." "Younger brother, why don't you buy one for your wife? Or do you think your wife doesn't deserve it?" I said in a sarcastic tone. The originally angry face of my sister-in-law showed an extra look of shock. She directly gave my younger brother a disdainful look. My younger brother couldn't stand it and had to say, "What kind of lousy bracelet costs 30,000 yuan? I think you were scammed. Let me take a look. If it's not good, you should return it." I sneered. Once this bracelet was in his hands, it would definitely not come back. This was bought at a special counter. "Oh, by the way, it's the same one you wanted to buy for your sister-in-law when you got engaged last time but thought it was too expensive and didn't buy." I was just waiting to watch the show. Sure enough, my sister-in-law couldn't sit still. She rushed up and tried to grab my bracelet. "Mom, look at her. She doesn't think about you or our family at all. She just wants to have a good time for herself. Now she's trying to provoke me. This bracelet can't be left with her." Seeing that she was trying to snatch it openly, I directly slapped her in the face, making her hair all fall down. Both my mother and my younger brother were shocked. They didn't know why the sensible, obedient and easily deceived daughter-sister was gone. My sister-in-law came to her senses and still wanted to fight back. But my husband stopped her and directly pushed her to the ground. "Enough. Our house isn't a place where just anyone can come in. If you make any more trouble, I'll call the police. Get out of here right now," my husband frowned and said. My sister-in-law squatted on the ground crying loudly. Beside her was her son who was still grimacing from the sour lemon. My younger brother was holding the two of them and glaring at us. My mother came up and tried to hold my hand, but I shook it off. "Mom, just say what you want to say directly. There's no need to pull and tug. People who don't know might think you love me so much." I remember that when I was in college, my family didn't give me a single penny for tuition or living expenses. They said that girls didn't need to study. In the end, I worked part-time to finish my studies. My mother still smiled with an embarrassed look. It's not that I'm biased. It's just that your younger brother's family is really in a more difficult situation. You have the ability, and we're all family. Why don't you give them a hand? Why give the benefits to outsiders?" She nodded towards my husband, hinting at something. I smiled, stood up and said, "Mom, my husband isn't an outsider. On the household registration book, my husband and I are the real family. As for you, I'd been giving my younger brother his living expenses and household expenses all the time. Even the betrothal gift for my sister-in-law was the 80,000 yuan I paid. I've already done my best for you outsiders." My mother stopped smiling and took back the hand that was going to hold mine. "Fine. You're saying this today just to make me die, right? You can't stand to see me happy. Fine. I'll die in front of you today and let others see how this unfilial daughter in our family is forcing her own mother to death." As she said this, she quickly rushed towards the balcony, opened the window and directly sat on the windowsill, shouting and yelling. "Someone come and take a look at this unfilial daughter. She has to force her own mother to death. She's getting a divorce but still living with a man. She'd rather leave the house to an outsider than give it to her own younger brother and mother. Everyone, come and judge." I calmly watched her acting. Seeing that more and more people downstairs were attracted by her, I even directly pulled open the glass that she was holding onto. "Mom, if you really want to die, don't hold on to the window. I'll help you." As I said this, I pulled one of her legs that she had pulled back inside the window outside again, causing an uproar downstairs. People were all accusing me. She's really unfilial. No matter what, she can't kill her own mother. Yeah, look at how she's dressed so beautifully and is living with a man in this high-end community. She definitely isn't a decent person. Exactly. There can't be a mother in this world who would abuse her own daughter, right? I slowly filled a large basin with hot water and directly poured it on the heads of the people downstairs. Why are you so eager to meddle in other people's affairs? Over the years, I've given hundreds of thousands of yuan to my mother and my younger brother's family. Why don't you pay that money back for me? When did my husband become your dirty and unseemly lover? My mother doesn't have a job usually and just likes to act. I'm sorry to have made you all laugh. If any of you keep talking nonsense, I'll report you all to the police station for handling. The people downstairs turned red and then pale from being splashed with a large basin of water. They left while cursing. I just quietly watched my mother, who was leaning against the windowsill and refused to get down. Mom, if you don't come down soon, it will be difficult to catch the bus back. What's the matter? Do you want to fall to your death here and try to extort money from me? Even if you try to extort me, I don't have any money. My younger brother quickly rushed up and pulled my mother down. Forget it, forget it. I don't know what's wrong with our sister today. How could she give this house to someone else? In the end, she still has to leave it to our family. My mother, after being persuaded, came down half-throated and still had a stern face towards me. Ma, it's not that your mother wants this house. It's just that your father passed away early, and I also want the family line to continue. Your younger brother has it hard too. He has a child, so you should give him more help. I smiled, went back to the room and threw out a large stack of bills. Over the years, haven't I been the one paying the water and electricity bills and property management fees for you? The four of you live in a big 100 square meter house without paying a single cent of rent. Who pays for it? During festivals and the new year, who buys you fruits and gives you red envelopes? And the money for my nephew's schooling and the clothes he wears, which one wasn't paid for by me? How much more help do you want? It's impossible for you to make me divorce, and it's even more impossible for me to give you this house. Either you pay back the money I've spent on you over the years, and I can let it go, or get out of my house right now, I roared. I directly took a broom and drove them out of the house. My nephew was still crying and reluctant to leave, asking me to buy him toys. Without saying a word, I grabbed a handful of chili peppers and stuffed them into his mouth. You have a room full of toys and still want more. At such a young age, you don't focus on studying but just think about playing all day long. Then I grabbed his sleeve and sent him out the door. With a bang as the door closed, I called my husband out. I slumped on the sofa, completely losing the imposing manner I had just now. My husband brought a cup of hot water and placed it in my hand. Then he massaged my shoulders and pressed my head. Wife, you were really amazing just now. But next time if there's a need, please don't forget your husband's responsibility, okay? Don't bear everything alone when there's something wrong. He said gently. I raised my head and looked at my husband standing behind me. Finally, I smiled. Yes, this time, I will never let the people I love get hurt, and I will never let my life be taken away by this big family of bloodsuckers. Remembering the regular monthly remittances I used to send to my family, I immediately operated on my phone to terminate the regular remittance. I also stopped the tutoring fees that I originally planned to pay for my nephew. I deleted all the contacts related to my mother and the others from my phone. Every day, I accompanied my daughter to school with peace of mind, went to the vegetable market to buy groceries with my husband, and had meals at home. Staying together as a family was the best thing. However, this good life didn't last long. I received a call from the real estate office. They said that I was going to buy a house, but the money hadn't been transferred over. Now they were preparing to handle the loan business. As soon as I answered the call, I knew who had done this good deed. My younger brother, along with my mother, had taken a copy of my ID card to buy a house. They had taken a fancy to a high-end house of 200 square meters in a residential area, and were planning to put only his and his wife's names on the property ownership certificate. How absurd! I couldn't bear to tell my husband about these messy things. While he was in the kitchen cooking, I took a taxi to the sales office. During the house delivery stage, the homebuyer was required to go up and crack an egg-shaped lottery. I calmly picked up a hammer and cracked a golden egg, and there was a cheer all around. When my mother and younger brother saw me coming, the corners of their mouths couldn't help but turn up. They both thought I had come to pay the loan. My mother excitedly grabbed my hand. "Ma, I always knew you wouldn't be so heartless. Good daughter, if you buy a house for your younger brother, we're still a family." My younger brother also pulled his wife and smiled sweetly at me. "Sister, if you pay for this house, Mom and I are willing to forgive you. Let's live like we used to, okay?" I calmly watched as the real estate manager came over. The manager asked me, "Is this house purchased by yourself?" I nodded. "Then do you want to add any other people's names to the property ownership certificate besides yours?" he asked. After thinking for a while, I added my daughter's name. My younger brother and sister-in-law's eyes wide and more than twice their normal size. Even my mother couldn't help but rush up and raise her hand to give me a slap. The manager stopped her. I sneered and pushed her to the ground. "Mom, if you give me this slap from now on, there will be no relationship between us as mother and daughter. Even if you die today, don't come looking for me." I poured a cup of tea on the ground, completely drawing a line with her. My mother simply lay on the ground, rolling around and throwing a tantrum, while shouting all kinds of unpleasant words at me. "You ungrateful wretch. You don't want to spend a single cent on your own family and want to drag your younger brother and your own mother to death. Fine, if you want me to die, I won't make it easy for you either. You heartless slut, I raised you for nothing all these years. It would have been better to raise a dog, at least a dog can wag its tail." I ignored her and left with my head held high. When I got home, before I even put down my bag, my husband came over with the meal. "What's wrong this time? There's something going on at home again. Didn't we agree that I would handle it?" I was extremely tired, but I still forced a smile. "No, husband. I still want to handle my family affairs by myself. If I really can't manage it, I will ask you for help." My husband understood me very well. He massaged me and beat my legs. In the evening, we soaked in a milk bath together. I looked at the wrinkles on his thin and fair face, gently stroked his face, and couldn't help but kiss him. He hugged me tightly too. That night, I swore that even for the sake of my husband, I would never compromise with my family again. In less than half a month, my family came to me again. This time, as soon as the door opened a crack, my sister-in-law pushed the door open with a slap. As soon as she entered the door, my mother knelt down in front of me. She also pulled my sister-in-law to kneel down. My sister-in-law finally knelt down reluctantly. I then learned that it was because my younger brother had stayed up late and was unrestrained in that aspect, and finally his kidney was damaged. In my previous life, I already knew that my younger brother had a bad kidney, and in the end, it came to the point of needing a kidney transplant. But this time, I would never let them set their sights on me again. I've never begged anyone in my life. This time it's not for myself but for your younger brother. Your father passed away early. You know very well how I, a woman, brought you and your younger brother up. I just eat some rice, and you eat the dishes. You always say I'm biased, but I've never treated you poorly in terms of food and clothing, right?" As she spoke, she even cried, moved by her own words. I pulled my mother up. It was still the same excuse as in my previous life. If it weren't for the fact that I died on the operating table and no one came to collect my body in the end, I would have been deceived by her this time. Father did pass away early, but that's not a reason for you to leave all the good things to my younger brother. I wore the out-of-season clothes that the neighbors didn't want, and I ate the vegetables that my younger brother didn't want. What did you give me? He didn't take good care of himself and damaged his kidney. He should go find the real culprit. As I said this, I glanced at my sister-in-law. My sister-in-law's face turned red and then pale. She stood up with a whoosh and retorted, "It's his own fault for not being careful. Who can you blame? A kidney transplant requires a match. My kidney doesn't match his, and as his sister, you should donate a kidney to him." Hearing this, I couldn't help but roll my eyes at her. I waved my hand to stop my husband, who wanted to step in from the bedroom. I had to solve my own problems. "So as his wife, aren't you more obligated to donate a kidney to him? And your child, my nephew, he should be the most suitable match, right? Why don't you let him donate a kidney to his father?" My sister-in-law snorted coldly. "How old is he compared to you? You're his aunt, and you want to take his life. He even talks about you every day, and this is how you treat him." I sneered. "Talk about me? He's probably thinking about my money." My mother stopped pretending and directly got up from the ground and slumped on the sofa. "Mama, whether you're willing or not, your younger brother's life is in your hands now." It seemed that if I didn't agree, they were going to stay in my house and not leave. My sister-in-law also turned on the TV and acted like the mistress of the house. "Hello? Is this the property management? There are strangers breaking in and robbing in my house. Please send someone quickly." I dialed the number of the property management. This really scared them. My mother sat up from the sofa and scolded me again. "Ma, why are you so naive? I'm your mother, and your younger brother is still young. He's also my son. I can't just watch him die. Whether you agree or not, you must donate a kidney to him." The corners of my mouth twitched into a helpless and sorrowful smile. At this moment, my husband also came out of the bedroom. "Normally, I can understand whatever you do. But today, it's related to Emma's safety. I can't just watch you send her to her death." My sister-in-law immediately jumped up. "What's going on? Do we have a gigolo in our family now? My sister-in-law is willing to donate a kidney to her younger brother. What's it got to do with you? Who asked you to butt in here?" My husband slapped her across the face. My sister-in-law covered her face and shrieked, "How dare you hit me? You've gone too far." My husband then poured all the red wine over her. "I hit you? Do I need to pick a special day for it? Which eye of yours saw that Emma wants to donate a kidney to your good-for-nothing husband? Why don't you use your son's kidney for the transplant? You keep causing trouble for decent people, shameless." My sister-in-law shrieked and frantically wiped the red wine off her body, but she couldn't get it off. Instead, she made herself look even more like a crazy woman. Just then, the property management staff arrived. Seeing this scene, they didn't say a word and pulled my sister-in-law out. The manager apologized to us. Sorry, brother and sister. We won't let them in again next time." My mother refused to leave and even pulled the property manager to reason with him. "I'm her mother, right? I raised her alone all these years, and what did I get in return? I heartless wretch. She lives in a big house with a man and refuses to save her younger brother's life. Is there such a daughter in the world? I should have drowned her in the toilet when she was born." I was speechless. It was the same old story again. "Manager, I don't know her. And I don't believe that there's a mother in the world who would want to take her daughter's kidney to save her son. A man can still live without one kidney. At most, he won't be able to have more children. Mom, you already have a grandson, so you shouldn't care about this anymore, right? Or do you plan to let my sister-in-law divorce and find another wife for my younger brother? Do you want someone to inherit your so-called family fortune?" My mother was so choked by my words that she couldn't speak. She kept urging my sister-in-law to hit me. My sister-in-law still hadn't dried the red wine on her body and now looked at my husband and me timidly. My husband picked up a broom and started hitting my sister-in-law and my mother with it. The two of them covered their heads and ran away faster than anyone. Finally, it was quiet for a while. After closing the door, my husband and I had a sweet moment together. I thanked my husband again for his help, but he waved his hand. "We're family. Don't be so polite. In the future, please don't hide anything from me, okay? No matter what, you have me as your support." I looked at my daughter in the bedroom and finally agreed. But I knew that my family was a complete mess, and I couldn't solve the problems without relying on myself. Whether others help or not isn't that important. In my previous life, I was too dependent on others. I thought that with my husband around and the blood relationship with my mother and younger brother, my daughter would never starve to death. But things turned out to be the opposite. I misjudged people's hearts. I watched my daughter freeze to death on a cold winter night. My mother and younger brother won't let me go so easily. Even if it's not for their own sake, they just don't want to see me living a good life. Sure enough, the next morning, my mother called me. Her tone was so sickly sweet that it made me want to vomit. Nah, come back to Mom's place for dinner tonight. Let's forget all the unpleasant things today. And bring our precious granddaughter with you. I remember she loves the hair tail I cook the most. Do you think I would believe her? My daughter is too young to eat hair tail because there are so many fish bones in it. Only her precious grandson likes to eat fish. I left my daughter at home and told my husband never to open the door for my family. I also asked the property management to put my mother and the others on the blacklist of the community so that they couldn't even get in. I knew that even if I didn't go to my mother's place, they would still find 100 ways to get to me. The best solution was to make them give up on me on their own. When I got to my mother's place and just sat down, my sister-in-law leaned over and put a chopstick full of food in my bowl. I saw that it was all chili peppers. Sure enough, her real intention wasn't to serve me food. She still had something to ask for. Sister, if you don't want to donate a kidney, that's okay. But you should at least have a physical examination once a year, right? Look, I got a free physical examination voucher. You can use it. After all, we don't want to let the benefits go to outsiders. Goodness. The flyer was obviously a low-quality, faded color print, and the hospital on it was a small private clinic that I had never even heard of. This was the clinic where I died in my previous life. There was no way I was going to go through that again. You can keep such a good thing for yourself. Besides, as long as the blood types match, people who aren't relatives can also donate a kidney. I saw through her intention at a glance. My sister-in-law was stunned. It was my mother who picked up the conversation. Don't think the worst of people. But what your sister said makes sense. When we go for the physical examination, we can all do it together. It increases the chances. It's all for our family. As soon as my mother said this, my sister-in-law was left speechless and didn't say a word for a long time. I sneered a few times. Looking at the boiling food in the pot, I had no appetite at all. It was crucial to deal with my sister-in-law. So while pretending to eat, I told my mother recently, a wealthy businessman came to our company. His assets are worth hundreds of millions. He keeps saying that he wants to remarry, but he can't find a suitable woman. Do you think we should find one for him? After all, he's a major client of our company. I knew that my sister-in-law was vain. Now that my younger brother was ill, she had long wanted to leave. Sure enough, before my mother could say anything, she rushed over. Sister, do you have his contact information? Seeing my mother give her a sideways glance, she changed her tone. I just want to introduce a nice woman to him. I already have a husband, so I can't possibly look for someone else. Seeing that my mother was somewhat reassured, she also let out a sigh of relief. I smiled slightly. What era are we in? Why are you still holding on to such an old-fashioned rule? Sister-in-law, if you're really interested, I can find you not just 1 but 3 or 5 wealthy men of that level. As soon as I said this, my mother quickly interrupted. What are you saying? Your younger brother isn't dead yet. Are you already thinking about finding him a new wife? I put a chopstick full of meat in my bowl. Mom, I'm just joking. Our sister-in-law isn't that heartless. Through the steam, I could see that my sister-in-law's face turned red. In private, I still sent her the WeChat account of that old man in his 60s. My sister-in-law was so grateful that she almost kowtowed to me. She also apologized for what happened before. I waved my hand. As for my matters, it's all negotiable. But for my younger brother, he can't just get divorced without getting anything. If you want to climb up the social ladder, you have to help him one last time. If you help him, Mom won't object so strongly to your remarrying. She was a thoughtless person who only knew how to shout. She also knew my mother's personality. If she dared to remarry before my younger brother died, my mother would definitely kill her. So when they went to the small clinic, she also got matched for the kidney transplant. When the results came out, my mother was very happy because there was one more person who could save my younger brother's life. And I already knew that my sister-in-law's kidney was a match for my younger brother's. But at that time, my sister-in-law refused to save my younger brother and instead wanted my kidney, which eventually forced me to death. Watching my sister-in-law voluntarily lying on the operating table, my mother was very happy and praised her. She also belittled me, saying that I was not even as good as an outsider. I saw my sister-in-law's expression change. Yes, in my mother's eyes, boys are better than girls, and daughters-in-law are outsiders. The kidney transplant was successful, but my sister-in-law had to have a blood transfusion due to massive bleeding. Looking at the extra cost, my mother obviously hesitated. But in the end, she still said, "We can't let our grandson grow up without a mother. We have to spend the money that needs to be spent." As she said this, she waved her hand and decided to have a blood transfusion for my sister-in-law. My heart sank. A daughter-in-law who is not her own flesh and blood, is more important than her own daughter. The grandson needs his mother, but doesn't my daughter need her mother? In my previous life, she didn't even give me a blood transfusion. After my sister-in-law recovered, her face was still very pale. But she couldn't wait to come to me, saying that she wanted to meet that wealthy businessman. However, she didn't expect that the wealthy businessman had already blocked her. I comforted her, saying it was okay. Then she told me that the old man had cheated her out of 500,000 yuan as an investment fund, and now she couldn't even find him. I was secretly delighted. There was no such wealthy businessman at all. It was just an advertisement for a heavy reward for giving birth to a son that I saw on a utility pole. It was originally a scam, and this was a team operation. I created the persona of a rich person just to cheat women like her out of their money. I didn't expect that my sister-in-law was so rich that she had money to be scammed by that old man. My sister-in-law secretly knelt down and begged me, "That money isn't all mine. Some of it belongs to your younger brother, and there are also online loans that we took together. I borrowed most of it, and I even used our mother's ID card as collateral. I didn't expect this to happen, sister. You were the one who recommended this person to me. You can ruin me." I shook off her hand. "How can it be that I ruined you? You were the one who wanted to contact this person. If our mother finds out, she'll definitely skin you alive. You wanted to find a rich man yourself, so how is it my fault now?" My sister-in-law had no choice but to keep kowtowing to me. The sound was so loud that it even alerted my younger brother and mother in the bedroom. After some questioning, my younger brother even took out a leather belt and gave her a good beating. My sister-in-law wailed in pain. My mother didn't try to stop him either. She only started to get scared when my sister-in-law was almost half dead. I, on the other hand, went aside and dialed the police's number. When the police officers arrived, they didn't expect it to be a crime scene. They immediately took my younger brother and mother away, and I went with them to give a statement. My sister-in-law was rushed to the hospital and finally managed to save her life, but for the rest of her life, she could only eat liquid food and needed to be fed turritib every day. She was almost like a useless person. My younger brother was sentenced to 10 years in prison without the possibility of commutation. My mother had to pay for my sister-in-law's medical expenses and hospital bills. At almost 60 years old, she still had to take a bus that traveled 30 li and worked 3 shifts a day, and then walk 3 li to visit my younger brother and check on his reform progress. As expected, my mother thought of me again. Early one morning, as soon as I left a residential area and was about to take my daughter to the amusement park, I saw my mother waiting at the entrance of the residential area. When she saw me, she immediately knelt on the ground. It was still the same old routine, crying and threatening. I rolled down the car window and was about to leave. But my mother lay down in front of my car. Daughter, after all, I raised you. No matter what, you're the flesh that came out of my womb. You can't just ignore your own mother, right? I looked at her white hair fluttering in the wind and her weathered face, and I felt a twinge of pity. Mom, I'll give you a sum of living expenses every month, which will be enough for you to live on. As for the matters of my sister-in-law and younger brother, let them solve them on their own. You're getting old, and there's no need for you to get involved. My mother knelt in the cold wind and apologized to me. Daughter, what you said is right, but I'm not as heartless as you. After all, he's our own flesh and blood. How can we not help him at all? I rolled up the car window. Since that's the case, then you take good care of them. There's nothing more I can do. I still regularly sent my mother a sum of living expenses every month. I didn't know whether she used it to treat my sister-in-law's illness or to improve my younger brother's food in prison. My husband and I took our daughter out to play once a month. One day we went out late and stayed in a hotel. I heard an old woman's voice downstairs. Girl, if you don't want this water bottle, can you give it to Grandma? I looked in the direction of the voice, and the old woman with white hair who was begging for water bottles to sell, turned out to be my mother. It was strange. Wasn't 5,000 yuan of living expenses per month enough for her to live on? I didn't think about her for a long time. I heard that my sister-in-law's medical expenses became more and more in the later stage, and my mother directly stopped her treatment. My younger brother and sister-in-law also signed a divorce agreement in prison. The two of them were officially divorced. After my younger brother got to prison, he still acted arrogantly, and he was beaten up every 2 days. When I saw him again, I found that he had a lame leg and a blind eye. When he saw me coming to visit him, he cried like a child, Sister, you've finally come. Please help me get out of this hellhole or find me a lawyer. I really can't stand staying here for another day. I pretended to be in a difficult situation and promised him, okay, I'll try, but I'm afraid the judge won't allow it. You know that our mother doesn't want to be close to me either. If you have any complaints, go to her. Later, during a prison visit, my younger brother and mother also had a conflict. My younger brother insisted that it was all because my mother had indulged him blindly and hadn't taught him well that he ended up in such a situation. My mother also thought that she had doted on him enough, and that it was his own fault for being so unsuccessful. The two of them immediately started fighting. My younger brother directly hit my mother on the head with handcuffs, and blood gushed out. When the prison guards found out, my mother had already lost too much blood and was only half alive. My younger brother was also sentenced to life imprisonment. I went to the hospital to visit my mother and found that she had become a vegetable, but she could still sense the outside world, except that she couldn't move her hands and feet. When she saw me, 2 lines of tears still flowed down her face. I knew that maybe she had a lot of regrets, but it was too late to say anything at this point. Outside the hospital, the sun was shining brightly. I looked at my husband and daughter who were waiting for me and showed a happy smile.